A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase.
About 20 minutes of waiting, but bingo, I think. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Wales, where it's 1 degree above zero. It was 30 degrees where I was in Vietnam last week, and I'm feeling the difference, if I'm honest, but there we go. I have been to this quarry numerous times. In fact, I'm sure I've made videos here before. Can't remember specifically, but I always have a hard time trying to work out how photogenic I think it is. I mean, it's full of story, these buildings. I mean, quarries in general, I suppose, are full of human story, which I quite like, but there's very little colour here, typically. We have some light today, so things might be a bit different. But yeah, generally speaking, I struggle to work out how much I enjoy photographing here versus just being here. And I definitely enjoy being here. And in truth, that might not be the end of the world though. Because I've been thinking quite a lot recently over the past couple of months, ever since we had that Northern Lights storm. When was that? September? Anyway, I've been thinking quite a lot since then about how when that happened, my Instagram feed was full of Northern Lights photos and people getting very excited about capturing the Northern Lights. And I just didn't feel fussed at all about trying to photograph them. I photographed the Northern Lights quite often in the past, in places like Greenland and Iceland. But this time I noticed I just wanted to watch them with my own eyes, and I didn't even take a camera out. And ever since I've been trying to work out why that is. Quite a nice bit of light up on that stack now. Anyway, this Northern Lights thing. I have never seen or taken any photos that are anything like as good, to me at least, as seeing the Northern Lights with your own eyes. And I've realised, having thought about this quite a lot over the past couple of months, that deficit that you have between experiencing something and seeing a photo of it, I really don't like that deficit. And what I prefer to do is come to places like this that I'm not so sure are particularly photogenic. I mean, again, you may disagree with that. But I like to go to places that, to me at least, don't seem particularly pretty, and I like to try and photograph them in a way that is pretty or nice to look at or interesting. And of course, whether or not I achieve that, I've no idea really. But that's the challenge that I quite enjoy. And yeah, I've struggled to put that into words for quite a long time because I've not really known why it is that I don't like photographing things like Northern Lights. But yeah, finally figured it out, I think, which feels good. Anyway, today's challenge is to get some shots around here. Need to wait for the sun to go over there for this, I think. Come back later. Lots of footprints here, but I feel like the scene isn't necessarily ruined when it's the footprints of mountain goats. A bit more authentic than footprints of people, although is it? This is clearly a human place, or was. Come on, light, come back. Ooh, things might be about to take a turn. That looks like a lot of snow. Tell you what, there's definitely something magical about indoor snow. The speed of the snow is changing all the time. Kind of makes shutter speed a bit of a guessing game. Bracketing helps with that, I guess. Okay, I do know my way around here, but I don't want to push my luck. So I'm going to head down, I think. Looks amazing though. Pleased I came. I imagine some of you potentially think I'm a little bit bonkers for suggesting at the top of the video that that isn't a particularly photogenic location in my opinion. And I stand by that, I do, but it can be a really photogenic location, I think, provided you lean heavily on things like light. And I don't think I really appreciated that when I first discovered this quarry. And obviously I didn't discover the quarry. Somebody did in the 1700s, I think. But you know what I mean. And I think the reason that you have to lean heavily on things like light is that the interesting stuff, a lot of the interesting stuff, so the buildings, for example, they're made out of exactly the same stuff that they're surrounded by. Slate. Obviously it's the second biggest slate quarry in the world, I think. And in part, that's what makes those things interesting, but it's also what makes those things quite tricky to take photos of, because obviously the buildings don't stand out because everything around them is the same as the buildings. And so the conclusion I came to both on that day and a week after when I went back, when there was a little bit of light and all the snow had gone, the conclusion I came to about light is that you need it there. And you need it more than I thought you would in a place so full of history and intrigue and story and all the other stuff that I was talking about. And if you don't have light, I mean, the snow was pretty helpful, to be honest. And also, there was this cloud that came over. So this is a scene that looked, I think, really not very good. So the building just sort of blends into the valley in the background, as does the tree behind the building that you can barely see here. But a couple of hours later, there was a cloud in the valley, and it just enables the tree and the building to stand out, and you can see the top of the mountain above the clouds. Just completely changes the scene. So I think that can be a fantastic place to shoot, but yeah, you just need to lean on the conditions more than certainly I thought I would have to before I first went there. Anyway, hopefully that was interesting or useful. And a bit of a word on bracketing, actually. I was bracketing for a couple of reasons that day. Firstly, it was very, very bright. The buildings, or the dark bits of the buildings, are super dark. The snow is obviously very bright. And so having lots of different exposures to choose from when I get home is always helpful. And the second reason I kept bracketing, even when the light had gone, but it started snowing, is that I find in snow, bracketing is a really useful tool because shutter speed is crucial in snow. If your shutter speed is too fast, you'll end up with frozen snowflakes, which I never think look particularly good. And if your shutter speed is too slow, then a scene can sort of look as though, well, it's not really snowing at all. And so nailing some movement in the snow or perfecting that, I find easier when I'm bracketing, because you can take 3 shots, all at different exposures, mind, but take 3 shots, all at different shutter speeds, review them quickly, see what works best, and adjust your shutter speed from there. I find it just quite a quick way to work, particularly when on days like this, the speed of the snow is constantly changing because there are gusts of wind coming in. And yeah, useful tool, I think. Anyway, thank you for watching, and thank you to the sponsor of this week's video, Squarespace. And I'm going to put a couple of the photos from this video on my website, namely the first one that I showed to you, and also this one, because I really like the light on the grasses, just on the right-hand side, mostly. I mean, I like the whole picture, but I really love that. Anyway, the joy of having a portfolio on a Squarespace website is that it is super, super simple to make everything look professional. It's basically a drag and drop process. Squarespace takes care of all the resizing to make sure that your images look exactly as you want them to on any device. And it's not just images. You can design emails, blog posts, your online store, all without knowing
a single line of code. And there are so many different templates to choose from on Squarespace, and I just think for a photographer, having a website that I control entirely is a hugely important tool in my arsenal, because I know that people can find my images online in the way that I want them to be seen. And if that sounds of interest to you, then you can go to squarespace.com to start a free trial. And then after that, if you'd like to make a purchase, just go to squarespace.com/James and you'll get 10% off that first purchase. So a big thank you to Squarespace for their continued support of this channel. And again, thank you to you for watching. And I'll be back next week, I think, when hopefully it's a bit warmer, which is a bold thing to wish for in December now. Probably won't be, will it? I'll see you then.